feel like writing today. What do you do when you lack the motivation to write? Listen up for my 10 best tips on how to combat this terrible fate for a writer. Hello everyone, welcome to Pen to Paper. I'm Leah Lindeman, author of the Canadian Reminiscence series. Here on this channel on Wednesdays, it is AuthorTube. I give you writers' tips and advice all about the craft of writing books and some publishing and marketing. And then on Fridays, I talk about books. So it's all about BookTube and how much I love them. Now, before I launch into today's material of getting motivated to write, I'd like to tell you about something really cool that I found out just, when was it? The past 2 weeks. If you go over to Margaret Pinar and Barrett, Laurie's channel. They're both author tubers, and they've done this really cool things once a month where they host karaoke on their channels. So if that's something that interests you, that you like to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, or maybe you just like to sing, I believe it's open to everyone, not just author tubers. But go ahead on over to their pages. I'm also going to put that information in the description below and in the card above, and you can go check that out. I was actually in the last one, somewhere around the 1 hour, 3 minute mark. So you can check that out, but it's just fun to do that and to be with others in the community and just to sing and have fun doing it. So check that out. Now, for today's material. Motivation. It is such a word that inspires and yet produces dread at the same time, because either you have the motivation to write or you don't. Now, for newbie writers, this might be something that you think you will not have problems with, but let me guarantee you, you will. As a seasoned writer, I have gone through many ups and downs, ups where I have been motivated to write, where I haven't really had to do things to be motivated. I just was motivated and then started writing, and it flowed very naturally. But there have been many seasons too where I was not motivated to write. Now, let me just get into this before I give you my tips to motivate yourself to write. That motivation will not get you through the project of your first draft, rewriting, editing, publishing. Only habits will do that. And that means a daily consistent output of words, whether that be 100 words or 1,000 words or 2,000 words, whatever you're able to manage. But that should be the majority of your efforts should be going into making that a daily practice or habit. Motivation is kind of like the cherry on the top. You've put all your efforts into baking a beautiful cake and icing it. It takes time, it takes effort, and then the cherry on the top is the motivation. It's just some fun, creative ways that you can help yourself get into the moment of writing and feeling motivated to do so. So let's start with my first tip, which is, what is the reason for the story or the work, because it could be nonfiction, that you're writing? Why are you writing this particular work? I find personally that this is a point that I need to constantly remind myself. And sometimes when you start the work, your reason for writing it changes over time. That's not a bad thing, but it's something that you need to constantly examine yourself and your work and say, why am I really writing this? Is it for others? Is it for myself? And let me remind you that although, of course, you do want to take your audience into account, you are writing this because you're passionate about it, or at least I hope you are. You're writing this because it's something that you get excited about. It's something that you want to throw yourself into, good or bad. So just keep that into mind. What is the reason that you are writing this story? and why do you want to write it? And keeping that in mind over, oh, I'm just writing a story because I want to be famous, or I'm writing this story because I want to make money. Let me burst your bubble here. Most authors do not make millions of dollars writing books, and you are hard-pressed to find authors who make a very good living off of writing books. It takes time. It takes a measure of exposure. It takes a measure of reaching large audiences. I'm not saying it can't be done, but you shouldn't be doing it for that. You are going to meet a lot of disappointments on the road to that. But if you stick it through, you could get there. And as for fame, same thing. You are not going to easily get there, but that doesn't mean you can't. So think about the reason for your work and make sure that it's a reason that you can stand behind all the way, or if the reasons shift, that you can stand behind those reasons and be truly content with the reason why you're writing this work. Another tip that I have for you is, why are you writing it for other people? What is your service to others in this book? Now, of course, as I said, there's a duality to writing a book. When you write a book, you're writing it for yourself, but you're probably also writing it because you want to make readers feel something, or you want to educate them, or you want to make them laugh, or you want to make them cry, or you maybe want them to think about a certain theme that you feel is not talked about very often. Or maybe you're bringing a complex issue that you want them to also give some considerate thought toward. Whatever it is, understand the reason why you're writing it and how it's serving your audience in the big scope of the project. And when you think of these things, it will give you that impetus. You will feel excited to bring about a work that means something to other people, that will change their lives in some way, whether it's just for entertainment or for actual thought-provoking discussion. Now, my third tip is, this is a personal favorite of mine, is reading the recent material that I've just written. So sometimes, if I miss a day or 2 days in my writing, what I'll do is I'll actually go back, I would say maybe 5 pages, anywhere between 1 to 5 pages of what I've just written, and I'll read it. And when I read it, it just immerses me back into the story of what I'm trying to say or write. And then when I read it close to where I'm getting to where I need to write, it kind of flows naturally. This has happened, so this has happened, now it's blank. Now I feel that I'm actually inspired to write the next scene, or where I want the character to go, or where I want the plot to develop, because I've started a little bit at a point that was sooner than where I was, instead of just immersing myself into the book, like throwing yourself into a polar bear dip, cold water. There you go, you've landed, right? It just helps me warm up to where I want to be. So that's my personal favorite. It's just a practical little tip that I use almost every time I write. Even if I've written the day before, if I was really excited writing the scene before where I am now, the blank page, I'll reread that scene and just get excited about it, and then it kind of propels me to continue where I want to go with the story. Now, another tip that I have for you is having some sort of plan, some roadmap. Now here I know we're going to get into a little bit of a plotter versus pantser territory. It could be, I'm going to kind of go here with the plotter territory. Plotters tend to already know where they're going to go in the story. They may have plotted up all their chapters, and they just kind of go along the map that they've created for themselves. This helps with motivation because you've already understood where you want to go, and sometimes for many people, unknown territory makes them freeze, or they just don't want to write because they have no clue where they're going, so what's the point? if you like the structure of having a plan, then go ahead and do that. But maybe you tend to be a pantser like I am. You get excited about the unknown journey lying ahead of you. You are spontaneous. You just don't want to know where you're going. You just want to go and move. And if that excites you, then you can lean more toward that side. I'm a little bit in the middle, but more toward the pantser side. I really love that sense of adventure, of letting the story lead me where it wants to go and being surprised by that. That excites me. But I do have a goal of that, what I want to reach. And I also have key scenes that I actually play over in my mind over and over again. I have a playbook of how I want that scene to turn out. But I'm also very flexible to see if the writing changes that at all. So having those checkpoints where I want to go and meet is also very helpful. In any situation of life, it's always good to not just envision you reaching the goal and then celebrating you reaching that goal, but to also see yourself along the way, along the journey. How am I going to rise above those challenges that I meet when I get there? So that way, when you actually do get there, you're not as discouraged as you would be because you have a game plan of how you're going to reach that mountaintop, of overcoming that lack of motivation. Or if you're thinking in terms of scenes, how are those scenes going to go, and how are the actors, not the actors, the characters going to play out, and your plot's going to deepen. That is also very helpful to do. My next tip for you is to search out your inspirations. What inspires you? It could be a multitude of things, from anywhere from music to movies to the outdoors to dogs, animals, people, you name it. You have to figure out what inspires you, because then you can spend time in those inspirations and then bring that to a place where you're motivated to write. Now, if you don't know because you're new to all of this, then try a variety of different things and then see what inspires you and gets you in that mood, that creative mood, to be like, strike while the iron is hot. I'm ready to write. My personal inspirations are, I love to listen to epic cinematic instrumental music that just kind of gets me in the mood to feel all the things that I want my characters to feel. And then if I find a particular song that really meets a certain scene that I'm trying to set, then I'll put that aside into a playlist. And I have playlists for my books. What else inspires me? I also love going for nature walks. And then when I do that, I actually have, well, first of all, it's fresh air that I can breathe. Just puts me in a great mental headspace. And then I also have that time to go through the playbook of my scenes and see myself writing those scenes and the struggles I'm going to meet when I write those scenes. And then me getting to the end goal of where I'm trying to get to. And then another thing that inspires me is people watching. Nope, I'm not a creep. I'm excited, and I find it interesting how people respond to other people in their lives and other situations. So that can be very interesting as well for me. So figure out what inspires you and then go with that. My next tip for you is sharing your writing goals. I know this may sound scary, but it's actually can be very helpful, because you know that the audience on your newsletter, your social media, your YouTube channel, wherever you have your audience, can help keep you accountable to actually meet those goals. So it could be finishing my first draft in a month, or publishing my book by the end of this date. That way, you know, because people are watching you, that you actually want to accomplish that goal. You don't want to be seen as someone who is perhaps not a person of integrity, who doesn't care to meet their goals. You want to hit that goal. So you're going to work harder. It's going to give you that momentum to propel you in the right direction. If you do get to a point where you don't hit the goal, but you know you've worked really hard to meet it, perhaps you just didn't give yourself enough time. And if that's the case, give yourself that grace and extend it. But maybe you didn't hit it because you were maybe falling back on motivation only instead of writing as a habit. Then figure out what went wrong and then how are you going to fix that? Because moving into our next tip, if writing is a priority for you, you are going to make the time for it. If you say, oh, I can't find the time, I don't have time, then maybe you need to seriously think about, is writing a priority for me? Do I get motivated at all to write? Maybe it's just something that I feel like I need to do, but that's not what you're meant to do. So make sure that you don't find excuses for lack of motivation or find excuses to not make writing a habit. I have 6 kids. I am busy with them all day long. I homeschool them. And then, after that, I need to take care of the house, make supper, and all the household chores that come with that, on top of having just launched a new business. And I still make the time to write. And that could be at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. But writing fulfills me. Writing to serve others makes me excited. And the story makes me excited. And so I write. So figure out and examine for yourself, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Because if I'm not doing it, then what's going wrong? And how am I going to change my mind to actually get to a place where this is a priority for me in my life? My next tip for you is, let's see here. Let me try to remember. It's rewarding yourself. You can use this. I would use this sparingly. You can use it a little bit more often if you feel that you need this to help propel you into an actual habit. But let's say you tell yourself, I'm going to write 500 words and then I'm going to watch that episode I want to see. Or 1,000 words and then I'm going to finish that book I'm dying to finish. Or give myself a chocolate bar or whatever helps, whatever reward you like. And it can be a small reward. And then do it and then get your reward. Now, I'm just going to caution you here that if you find yourself constantly looking for rewards and not finding reward in the work that you actually get done, then perhaps ease off on the rewards. I think it's very important to find satisfaction and joy in our work for the sake of the work being done. Perhaps, you've been in a place in your life where you've put that work and effort in and no one acknowledges you or you don't get a reward for it. Instead of being miserable about it, look back on your work and say, wow, I did that. I know what I did and I can find satisfaction in that. So use the rewards, just not all the time, and really examine yourself to see, okay, am I depending on this too much? I'll ease off. Or no, this is actually helping me and I'm in a good place. I still don't completely depend on these to help me be motivated to write. My last tip for you is to take care of yourself. If you are not sleeping well, eating well, being healthy overall, exercising, it could be cardio for an hour, it could be a walk for half an hour, then you will be hard pressed to find yourself in a good mental state to do the hard work of writing. Because writing isn't easy. And yes, it is creative. Yes, there are moments when the words just completely flow and inspiration is abundant. There's a fountain of joy in it. But sometimes it's difficult and you have to push yourself to do the work. And if you're not taking care of yourself to be in a place where you have that mental hardiness to overcome the struggles that you are going to overcome or that you need to overcome, then make sure that you're in a good place for it. Because having these personal goals of sleeping well, eating well, exercising will help you solidify and cement the goal of consistent writing. Because remember that writing is not based on motivation, it's based on a habit of writing. So I hope these tips have been helpful to you today. If you like this video, then go ahead and press the like button, subscribe down below, and tell me what tip is the most helpful to you or you think would be the most helpful to you. Have an amazing day.